Nationally, officials in every state are working to ensure that this year's election is the most secure ever. That includes the polling places. Nicole Skanga has more on that from Washington.
Behind me, business after business boarded up. The U.S. Secret Service has stood up an anti-scaling fence, a ring of steel surrounding the White House, 8 feet tall, and similar security measures are in place at both candidates' election night headquarters, plus platoons of tactical teams, drones, and counter surveillance technology. It's an election week security posture that extends beyond just the nation's capital. Today, dozens of National Guardsmen will deploy in at least 6 states, plus Washington, D.C. On top of that, hundreds more are on standby. One big concern for law enforcement, ensuring those political battlegrounds don't become actual ones, as the Philadelphia district attorney made clear yesterday.
Anybody who thinks it's time to play militia, F around and find out.